What's up, everyone? I'm John Rettinger. I lost Movember, and I've got a review for you of the Droid Razr. This is one of the now many flagship phones in Verizon's lineup. It's thin, it's got 2 cores, it's got LTE, it's got everything that you could want from a modern smartphone, but it's missing a few things as well. This is a follow-up, of course, to the original Razr, which actually has a very warm spot in my heart. It was a phone that initially got me to technology, especially mobile technology, so it's fun to not only type the Razr name again, but say it again with some relevance. So I was trying to think of a fun joke about whether or not it's going to be sharp enough for you to pick up, keep you on the cutting edge of technology, or something corny like that. Let's go and just get right into it. This is a review of the Motorola-built Droid Razr for Verizon Wireless. So let me start by refreshing your memory on the specs that the Droid Razr packs, and it really does pack quite a punch. Let's start with that gorgeous screen. It is 4.3 inches measured diagonally with a resolution of 540 by 960 with a Super AMOLED Plus panel, so that's 256 ppi. It's got Corning Gorilla Glass, so you can throw this in your pocket with some keys and be good to go. Being powered by a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core TI-built OMAP processor. It's a 4430 if you're keeping track, and it's got a gig of RAM to keep things running smoothly. 16 gigs of internal storage, expandable with a micro SD card on the back. It's got a camera, not surprisingly. That camera is an 8 megapixel shooter that can shoot 1080p video at 30 frames per second, and on the front it has a 1.3 megapixel camera for all your vanity shots, if you will. It is a Verizon 4G phone. That's 4G LTE, which is legit 4G. You are going to get blazing fast speeds if you are in a 4G area. I regularly get between 10 and 16 megabits per second down, and about 3 to sometimes 5 up. Really, really fast speeds. So if you're in a 4G area, definitely keep that in mind. This whole package is going to weigh 4.48 ounces, and it's going to be just 0.28 inches thick. So it's a very, very, very thin phone. All right, so now you know what it's got. Let's go ahead and talk about call quality. It doesn't matter what a phone packs in the spec department. It's not going to make good phone calls for you. It's not going to be that useful. Like most Verizon phones I've tested, this has been outstanding. In my 20 call test, I didn't have a single drop call, including driving through a notorious Verizon dead zone. I was able to retain a pretty strong signal. I had no white noise or popping on my end, and things just worked very well. No white noise or popping on the caller's other end either. Speakerphone was pretty average, but if you rely on speakerphone for meetings or in the car, you're going to be fine. All right, so this guy is packing the Razr name, so it's got to pack an accompanying design that's going to be worthy of that name. So let's talk about this design quite a bit. So on the front, it looks like most other Android phones. It's got a screen, camera, some sensors, and your capacitive buttons across the bottom that you're used to. In this case, we've got menu, home, back, and search. On the left, that's where your SIM card slot and micro SD card slot are going to live. If you can have a nail long enough to get into that door, that's where they're going to be. If I can get in there. Come here. There we go. That is where they're going to live. On the right-hand side, got your power and lock button, and then a volume toggle up and down. But as I turn this phone to the side, you can see why it's called a Razr. It's incredibly thin, with a bit of a hump on top. On the back, though, things are a little bit interesting. This is Kevlar. It's not going to stop a bullet like its flak jacket-toting cousins might, but it is going to be splash-proof. So if you're by a pool and someone does a cannonball, get some water on your phone, don't fret. Does not mean that it's waterproof, but it does mean that it's splash resistant. And we tested this. In some of the pictures in the gallery below, you'll see we sprinkled water on it, and we didn't have any sort of problem whatsoever. So a combination of stainless steel and Kevlar make for a very interesting design. It does have that sort of really apparent hump on the top. It's a very thin phone, but it's also extremely wide. So you need to have pretty big hands in order to use this. If I bring in something like an iPhone 4, for example, and we look at just width, you can most definitely see a difference there between the two. So as you hold this phone in your hand, you may have a hard time pushing your thumb from various sides to it. I let my wife try it. She doesn't have the very largest hands in the world, and she had some hard time actually holding the phone. So if you have smaller hands, or you're concerned that it might be an issue, you're going to want to go to a Verizon store and try one of these for yourself. It's extremely thin, but again, it's also extremely wide. So definitely something to keep in mind. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about performance. This guy's got dual core, Giga RAM, 4G LTE, but if you're picking up a phone in this high end, chances are you're going to be concerned about performance. LTE, as I mentioned earlier, is incredibly fast. Download speeds are just absolutely blazing. I ran a few tests. The SunSpider JavaScript test got 1,970, and Quadrant pulled in 2,569. If that doesn't mean anything to you, don't worry. All you need to know is those are good scores, and that translates to a very fast phone and a really excellent experience using this. Scrolling around, opening up applications, I never had any sort of slowdown. You can see there's sort of fake 3D effects as you move through here, and as you move icons around, you get sort of a 3D effect as well. I'll show you that. Let's go ahead and find one. There we go. So if I were to, say, pick this and move it around, you can see it sort of floats and does a 3D thing. You get almost an ice cream sandwich look with those little pluses that show up there. And we'll talk a bit about ice cream sandwich later. Very, very fast phone. This is probably one of the fastest phones that I've tested. Opening up applications is extremely quick. No matter what I was doing, whether or not it was something I had opened up before or something I had never opened up, it really just worked incredibly well. So I never opened up calendar or calculator, for example. You are not going to have to worry about memory management with this phone. Certainly you've got the task manager built in, as it is with all gingerbread phones, but you're not going to have to use it very often, which also means you're not going to really have to use advanced task killers, which oftentimes can create instability in the phones if you accidentally force close applications that may need to be opened for the operating system. So very, very, very quick, and I can say that a million times, an extremely fast phone. Motorola no longer calls their skin Moto Blur, and the skin is what sits on top of Android, but there are a lot of tweaks in here. Some things are good, some things are not bad. Let's start with one thing that I found extremely annoying. If I want to add something to the home screen, actually let's jump into applications. Let's say I want to add contacts to the home screen. I got to hit add to home screen. I can't pick the screen that I want and move the icons around. That might be a personal preference, but I definitely found that to be a little bit on the annoying side. So we'll go ahead and close out of this. This has something really cool, though, called Smart Actions. Let me go ahead and show you what that is. It lets you do some of the stuff that you need to do mostly with your phone using this really handy application that creates almost shortcuts for a ton of different things. So a few some samples here. You can see all the different things that you can do. You can set it for charging reminders and battery extending modes, nighttime savers, sleep, car. There's a lot of great things and a lot of shortcuts. So if you want to pick up this phone, definitely check that out, because you might not even know it existed. It's this application that you might just completely pass by. Smart Actions really are impressive. I do wish, however, that there was a profile switch to turn it from vibrate to ring right on it, or I wish there was something up here by default in the task manager. I pulled that down. I know there are third-party applications you can get, or shortcuts or widgets on the home screen. But I do like having a physical button or switch to do that. I also like that I can look at it without turning the phone on or unlocking the screen to see if it's on vibrate or ring. Motorola did, however, include something pretty cool in that vibrate or ring department. If I close it out and turn on the lock screen, you can change it from vibrate to ring before you have to unlock the phone, which is really nice. So my gripe about not having a physical button sort of put to rest a little bit by this little toggle. Oops. And as I talk about it, it disappears. By this little toggle right here, which is a sort of a handy little thing. So that's going to be a matter of personal preference. Let's go ahead and show you what apps are going to come standard in here. And there's a lot of Motorola editions and a lot of Verizon editions. GoToMeeting is going to be here. A lot of VCast services. The email application has been sort of rebranded with Motorola's take on it. Browser icons new. You've got horizontal scrolling here. Of course, mobile hotspot compatibility, Moto Active, so you've got compatibility for that. NFL Mobile, that's going to be a Verizon thing. Netflix comes standard on here. Navigation, which I'm going to start saying this in every one of my Android reviews. This is a reason alone to get Android. If you are like me and you have a hard time finding your way home, this is priceless to always have a GPS in your pocket. If you're in a friend's car, you just want to get somewhere. Even if I don't use it all that often, I like knowing that I'm never going to get lost. So that is a great thing that Android comes included with. You can see all the usual stuff that you've got here. I'll show you some of the widgets that you've got and that Motorola added here as well. So we'll go ahead and jump into widgets. And I'll scroll through them. You guys can see what they are. Hopefully you can read past my finger. You do have some toggles there. So toggle Wi-Fi on and off, traffic, weather, and then you go down to world clock and YouTube. So let me show you the keyboard on here, which I haven't always been the biggest fan of Motorola keyboards, but this one just looked cool to me. It actually looked cool and was easy to use. So it's a black keyboard, sort of black on gray. It looks very modern, very easy to use. Go ahead and sort of move around. I didn't like, though, if I can go ahead and get that back up again, that the microphone wasn't right there for the voice. But one of the positive things about Android is you can tweak the keyboard or put in new keyboards. I just thought it looked cool, and wanted to show you guys what that looked like. It also has a neat feature called pocket detection. And you might not know where that's going to live, so let me show you. If you jump on in, if you jump on into Settings, and we go to Display, in pocket detection, so it can lock your device automatically when inserted in your pocket. And it works pretty well. So if you're worried about not locking your phone, or if you have a tendency to butt dial people, this is going to prevent that. Speaking of putting the phone in your pocket, even though it's so thin, and that's where that Kevlar comes in handy, it's very strong, so you're not going to be able to bend it very easily. And I was really worried about that. With the phone that thin, oftentimes you can feel some flex and some give when you apply pressure. Not so, though, with the Razr. So hats off to Motorola for that. The screen here is absolutely beautiful as well. Really high resolution, 540 by 960. So let me go ahead and show you where some of that stuff's going to come into play. So let's go ahead and jump back. So we've got Techno Buffalo right here. The text is really, really, really crisp because the resolution's that high, and you couple that with the Super AMOLED screen, and it looks beautiful. With some AMOLED and Super AMOLED screens, particularly those made by Samsung, you sometimes have a little bit of a bluish hue to the display. It's present a little bit here, and it's subtle, but it's not as bright as you'd see on some of the Samsung phones. So to suffice to say, the screen here is absolutely beautiful, and probably one of the best that I've seen on a device recently. So just really an incredible screen. Text is bright and vibrant. Because the screen's so high resolution, oftentimes the text can look a little bit small, so you may have to find yourself pinching to zooming if, like me, you don't have the best eyes. So keep that in mind. Images here also look bright, and video playback looks tremendous. Unfortunately, that's not going to translate if I show you from video onto here, but take my word for it. Video playback looks very, very nice. Some other cool things here, it's web-top compatible, so you can use it for some of those docks that Motorola's got. If you want to hook it up to the laptop dock or dock to your TV, it can essentially be a media hub. Bluetooth 4.0 lives in here, so that's kind of neat. I believe it's the second phone outside of the iPhone 4S that's rocking Bluetooth 4.0, but there might be another one there. If there's another phone that I'm missing, leave it in the comments down below. Battery life, something you'd be concerned about with a phone that thin, is a 1,780 milliamp hour battery. So it's big, and it's extremely thin, and you're going to have no problem getting through a full day of battery use. And that's full day, at least for me, on LTE all the time with having a dual-core phone. No problem getting through a full day with some average browsing, probably an hour and a half of talk time, 2 emails, accounts going pretty much all the time, and regular texting. The phone handled everything with aplomb. So battery life fears are, gone away. So let's sort of wrap this up and bring a conclusion here. This is running Android 2.3.5. This is a gingerbread phone in ice cream sandwich world. This phone was announced the same day as Ice Cream Sandwich and the Galaxy Nexus, or at least the first time that we saw a full preview of Ice Cream Sandwich. Motorola very quickly said, it's going to be coming, Ice Cream Sandwich is going to be coming, don't worry. But it's not here now. We don't have a firm date for when it is going to be here. So without the Galaxy Nexus being released today, if I was to walk into a Verizon wireless store, this, beyond a shadow of a doubt, would be the phone that I would pick up. It's a tremendous phone and amongst the best of the gingerbread phones that I've tested. However, a few weeks, few months from now, that might not be the case, and the Galaxy Nexus is living on Verizon shelves, and you're going to get an operating system that was made just for that hardware. So you are going to get Ice Cream Sandwich support, but you're going to have to make use of these physical buttons at the bottom, which you might like, as opposed to the virtual buttons that are going to live in Ice Cream Sandwich's operating system. In Ice Cream Sandwich, the menu button here doesn't do much on the home screen. It only works contextually within applications. So if you don't mind waiting for Ice Cream Sandwich, or you'd rather wait until, say, bugs are worked out, and you want a great thin phone It's got incredible battery life, a beautiful screen, it's quick, it can handle pretty much everything you're going to throw at it. The Droid Razr is really going to be for you. If, however, you want to absolutely have the cutting edge the minute the cutting edge is available, and that pun was intended with a phone called the Razr, you may want to wait to see how this compares to the Galaxy Nexus. And of course, we'll compare both of them when they're out. So if you're up for an upgrade and you can wait a few weeks, you're going to owe it to yourself to wait a few weeks. But if you decide to pull the trigger on the Razr, you are going to get a tremendous phone and a really, really thin form factor. So let me show you a couple other phones here by comparison. So here is the Galaxy S2 Skyrocket. This is AT&T's LTE phone, their variant of the Galaxy S2 that does have LTE. And you can really start to see the thinness show up there. Let's bring in the Lumia 800, Windows phone, of course, from Nokia. Not the thinnest phone in the world. You can see that difference. And if we bring back we're going to close that, the iPhone 4, you can definitely see the thinness there. The iPhone 4 is starting to look, or iPhone 4S rather, starting to look downright fat compared to some of the really thin Android phones that are coming out. So, highly recommended this phone. If you can wait a little bit just to see how the Galaxy Nexus does. And of course, we will have all that information for you on technobuffalo.com, where you can get all your tech news, unboxings, obviously reviews, opinions, and an occasional good joke. I'm John Rettinger, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. All right, let's try this again. Oh, phone on vibrate. Phone is not on vibrate. All right, hand, let's do it. Phone you're gonna pick up if you're on Verizon Wireless. Verizon Wireless.